We all make choices, but in the end, our choices make us.
How about a little story? Back when I went to college, or at least what passes for college in my hometown, Basingstoke is a soulless place and all of its learning facilities are likewise, I met a nice young lad named Peter and we became close friends, mostly bonding over our shared love of Warhammer and other nerdy things. One day, as we both stood waiting for our class to begin, he told me about a game called Bioshock 2 and how he was rather fond of it. I was intrigued, so he lent me his copy to try out. I played a couple days later and I had a blast. In fact, it quickly earned a place in my personal top 10 favourite games of all time list. And so I bought his copy from him so I could play it again. And again. And again. At least I think I bought it off him. Balls, I might still owe him money for it. This was back in like 2014 or something. I wonder if he remembers. I should probably call him at some point. Anyway, after I discovered that I was in romantic love with Bioshock 2, I decided to play the first one, so I quickly found myself a copy.
Ugh.
What's up now?
Is there a single game series that you've played in the right order?
Little Big Planet.
Well, at least there is one.
Yeah, no, but I do see your point. It is weird that I start most series off like halfway through the series. I did it with Mass Effect 2 as well. Well, actually, no, I started on Mass Effect 3 for God's sake. I haven't even played the first game. Maybe I will. Probably not. My point is I am trying to do better on this front. Though I am also trying to drink less fizzy drinks and swear less, and we can see how that's going. Bioshock then. What is Bioshock? How does it work? Where is its natural habitat and what does its mating call sound like? Don't worry, hypothetical weirdo, I shall tell you all this and more after we get through with the begging. If you like what I do and want to see more of it, then don't forget to like this video, maybe leave a comment and subscribe for upcoming videos. If you want to support the channel directly, you can pledge a monthly donation of £1 via my Patreon page. This will net you some little thank you rewards like 24 hours early access to new review videos, shout outs at the ends of videos, and you'll get to suggest games for me to play, yay! If you want to support and get something tangible back for your support, visit my T-Mill shop and get a t-shirt, or a tote bag, or a jigsaw puzzle. Both links are in the description of this video, be sure to check them out. Now that that's done, let's head on down to Rapture. Bioshock takes place in the 1960s and follows the story of Jack, a plane crash survivor who finds himself in the middle of the freezing Atlantic Ocean in the dead of night. He must swim to the safety of the nearest dry land, this being a random lone lighthouse. Within a few minutes of entering, he's stepping into a deep-sea submersible. Before he can even pour the water out of his shoes, he comes face to face with the glorious undersea city of Rapture, a glittering utopia of enterprise where people's only limits were their imagination. A lovely place in theory. In practice, it's a city where corporations run unchecked, and which ultimately destroyed itself with a lack of regulation due to the inherent flaws of its concept. A city which rewarded unchecked capitalists and madmen ultimately fell apart. Of course, you as the player won't know the full story when you arrive. What you will see is a city ruined by civil war as its charismatic leader just sits by and lets it happen. We're contacted by a man named Atlas who wants us to help his family, though this goal later evolves to wanting to kill the city's ruler, Andrew Ryan. In this first section of gameplay, we're taught everything we need to know to survive in Rapture, which would otherwise be as hospitable to us as the 8th circle of hell. First, most of the residents of the city are now drug-crazed nutters who will try to murder anyone they suspect of possessing Adam. Adam being a substance that allows a person to rewrite their genetics, though it can cause horrible physical deformities and is highly addictive. You'll collect your first plasmid in this section, plasmids in Bioshock basically being superpowers that the player can use both in combat and for utility purposes. The very first one is basically a fistful of lightning that lets you stun enemies and open malfunctioning doors. It can also short out security devices like cameras and robots, and if you shoot it off into a pool of water where a bunch of people are standing then they get zapped and die, it's really useful. It's also quite cool. I'd love to be able to throw lightning at people. You'll get your first weapons, have a brawl with your first Splicers, that's the name given to the bad guys by the way, they're Splicers, and are given the direction to hurry up and go and meet Atlas. Though as you can probably expect, this doesn't quite go as planned, so you'll end up beginning an odyssey across this massive city. That is assuming that the game doesn't bug out.
What do you mean? I am as stable as iron. Blame the PS5.
Oh no, they only experienced the bugs in the PS4 version. I'm in the clear.
Children, behave.
To clarify my previous point, I experienced a bug last time I played the game that sort of locked me out of a vital gameplay section in about the 4th level or so I had to abandon the save. But this was on the remastered version, I should also mention that. I'd never encountered this bug on the original version of the game.
Kind of weird that the updated remaster would include bugs that were not present in the original version of the game, right?
Hey, it's not my fault. Blame the publisher, 2K.
Was it even their fault?
Well, no, but they're a game publisher, so who cares?
Valid point. Fuck those guys.
The game is a first-person shooter in the vein of the older style of first-person shooters, i.e. it's got open-ended maps with key hunting and puzzles. The game also has some RPG components and some elements of horror. Now when I say elements of horror, I'm mostly referring to the atmosphere of the game. It's very dark and dank, and there's always something hiding around the corner, and there's a lot of jump scares when Splicers are playing dead, so that's what I mean by horror. It's adjacent to horror, really. It can see horror quite clearly over its garden fence, but doesn't quite grasp it, you know? The Splicers come in varieties of flavour for you to fight. You have dudes whose motor skills are so compromised by the extensive Adam use that they can only swing whatever instruments they can find as weapons. Hi everyone, it's editing Ronica. It's the Ronica that appears when past Ronica did something stupid that needs editing. That's how editing Ronica works. You probably could have gathered that. It's been a while since I've done an editing bit because I've been pretty decent about just getting stuff right. Well, functionally anyway. So in the script, at this point I'm listing splicers, and in the audio I accidentally cut out the bit where I listed the leadhead splicers. You probably wouldn't have noticed it actually if I hadn't brought it up right now. It would have been a weird jump from melee splicers to spider splicers, but it would have been a noticeable jump, possibly. I'm actually thinking it really wouldn't have been, and this whole editing bit is just going to be way more distracting than the slight jump would have been. So it's, you know, it's up to you if this made it better or worse, but I chose to do it, and for some reason, despite the many opportunities I'm giving myself, I'm not stopping. Yeah. So I forgot leadhead splicers, that was supposed to be this bit. I could have just gone back to the original audio project I was working on for the audio for this script and put the bit back in. Wouldn't have been that hard, it's actually more work doing it this way around. So yeah. Moving on. You've got the exotic spider splicers who can cling to ceilings with metal hooks and possess remarkable acrobatic talents for people who are so spliced out of their minds that they can only really think about where their next fix is coming from. You have the weird Houdini splicers who can teleport and throw fire, and later they can throw ice, which is interesting. Does a lot of damage to ice if I'm being honest. And you have the ever annoying nitro splicers who lob grenades at you. But the most interesting enemies by far are the walking tanks that are the big daddies. These hulking, diving suit-clad cyborgs can soak up a ton of damage, and even late game they can kill the player in about 2 or 3 hits if you're not careful. You might think you'll just keep out of their way and not bother with them, but you see, it's not really an option if you want to survive in this flooded hell. Big daddies protect little sisters, and these young girls are Adam factories. Adam, you know, that stuff that you need for your health upgrades and new powers, and it is vital to survival down here, so if you don't fancy long drawn out wars of attrition, you're going to have to get to it somehow. You'll need to take on the big daddies eventually is my point, and this is a massive trial due to their armour and surprising speed at which they can move and react to the player. You wouldn't figure by looking at them, would you? They mostly just amble around as if they barely know where they are, but if you pose any sort of threat to their little sister, then they kick into gear fast. It's incredible. On the plus side, they won't bite if you don't, so take as much time to prepare as you can before you engage with them. If there's a turret nearby, hack it and lure the big daddy over to it. If you've got any proximity mines, leave a trail or attach them to an object and hurl it at the big daddy with the telekinesis power. Get an escort of security bots and load up with armor-piercing rounds. Trust me, big daddies fight to the death. Regular enemies will often seek cover and disengage if the fighting becomes dire to find a health kit. But the big daddy, it's not going to stop until it's convinced that you're dead. You can't run away from their fights once you start them. The big daddy will follow you until you're dead. And since around every corner there's another splicer waiting to knock your teeth out, it's really not something you want to be dealing with. Some big daddies shoot rivets at you that knock off half your health in a single hit. Some of them charge at you with a drill and just sort of impale you. You don't really want to be having to deal with that whilst also contending with drug-addicted lunatics. But get through it, finish off the big daddy, and you can get to the kid.
1. You're going to mention that god-awful hacking minigame that looks like some trashy pipe game that you find in the free apps on the App Store. And 2. How the hell did you get that Adam out of the... God... I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, now you can choose to harvest the kid. You'll get maximum Adam out of the process, but she will die. Or you can rescue her. You'll get less Adam, but she'll live as a human again, and you'll get some rewards later on, so we have something of a moral choice aspect here. You can either kill her to get the big payout there and then, or you can save her, take a smaller cut, but get a bigger reward later. I always chose the latter, partly because it seemed like the better option tactically, but also because I feel really bad for the little sisters. They didn't choose this, you know. They're just kids who are turned into monsters against their will. They're all high as a kite as they wander around the decaying ruins of their former home, draining blood from corpses just to get what little Adam there was inside. They're also under constant threat from splicers who want to rip them open to get the Adam out for themselves. Hence why the big daddies are a thing. Anyway, hacking, as Vera brought up. You'll need to do it on occasion if you want to get the security systems working for you, or if you want the best prices from some of the many vending machines you'll find around the levels. However, it is tedious. You have to create paths for Fluid to follow with this stupid pipe mini game. A thing that sucked so much arse that in the sequel they managed to improve on this system by replacing it with a QuickTime event of all things. Imagine that, a QuickTime event actually made an improvement to a video game. Still, there are a few ways to do less hacking. You can buy out most machines, it's often pricey and you might ask why it exists, but it does make sense if you think about it. In Rapture, money talks. The highest bidder is the one with the most control. It's a right-wing capitalist's wet dream down here. It makes sense that every security system can work for you if you just pay it a few bucks. You can also use an auto-hack tool, which, well, it does what it says on the tin, really. It hacks things automatically. Or with the turrets and the bots, you can hack them automatically by researching them. There's a tool in game which is a camera. You take photos of enemies and security as you pass them by and it analyses them for you. If you take enough photos of a particular enemy type, the camera spits out a prize for you. For the security turrets and for the robots, one of the traits you can get is the ability to hack them automatically. All you gotta do is stun them and then press one button and boom, they work for you. In general, it's just handy to take your camera out every so often and take some cheeky photos. Snap some shots of the Splicers, take some photos of the security systems, get a picture of a Big Daddy and even photograph a little sister.
Wait, so you can play as a grown-up man photographing little girls without their consent? That's pretty sus.
No. See, they're not really human in that state, and it is in the name of science after all.
Whatever you say, buddy. I still think it's kinda wrong.
The overall experience is a rather fun one. There are a lot of secrets to find, there are a lot of audio diaries all over to reveal the story of this place, and plenty of murder fun times to be had. The game does falter a little bit in the last third or so of itself. Not a deal breaker, but it does stop being as engaging as the earlier sections. Another villain comes into play and it just isn't the same, you know? Still, the game as a whole is solid and definitely worth checking out. It's one of those games where you can carry like 8 different situational weapons on you, where the enemies are ruthless and where strafing is your best friend. No cover mechanics, none of that 2-weapon slot malarkey. Ammo capacity is a bit limited, but not to a point where it becomes a hindrance, and the game has 4 difficulty settings, which I think are well sorted. I played all of them at least once, and yeah, the harder ones, they really do up the ante. Bioshock is not only a fun game, but one with a story that will make you think with its political elements and its morals. Of course, it could just be a game about a lunatic murdering drug-addicted homeless people if you so desire, but the story is one of the game's best aspects. I'll admit that I do prefer the sequel overall, but there is just something so fresh and grabbing about the first game that will always hold a special place in my heart. The Bioshock collection for modern consoles is a great deal. All 3 games plus their DLC for like 45 quid. Now that's what I call a bargain. If you haven't played Bioshock, then would you kindly play it? It's genuinely a fantastic video game. If you've already played it, well, would you kindly go back and play it again? It's a great game, you should play it again. It's a good idea. It's always a good idea to play Bioshock, so would you kindly go back and play Bioshock? Would you kindly like, share and subscribe?
Would you kindly?
Anyway, here's a drawing I did of a little sister to close us out with. I think they're cute and creepy and yeah, I didn't know how else to end the script, to be honest. The ending of the script is always kind of hard to write. I don't always know what to close with. So today we're closing with a drawing of, again, a little sister. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.